You're a burden, Mason. You can't live here anymore. My dad said it right there. At Christmas dinner, fork still in his hand, turkey still warm on the table, candles flickering between us like nothing was wrong. I was 23 years old. I paid every utility bill in that house. The electric, the internet, the water, the gas, even their Netflix subscription and their Amazon Prime membership. And he looked me dead in the eye, in front of my mother and my 16-year-old sister, and called me a burden. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't flip the table or storm out of the room like he probably expected me to. I just set my fork down slowly, looked right back at him, held his gaze without blinking, and said one word, "Okay." His face shifted. Confusion flickered across it for just a second, like he expected me to beg, to argue, to break down crying and apologize for existing in his house. But I didn't give him that satisfaction, because right at that moment, something clicked inside me. A switch flipped, years of frustration, resentment, and exhaustion crystallized into something cold and clear. I had a plan already forming in my mind, and by the end of the week, their entire world would go dark. Literally. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me where you're from and what time it is there. I read every single one. Let me take you back to where this all started. Let me tell you how I ended up here. My name is Mason Hart. I'm 23 years old. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Not the nice part with the trendy coffee shops, the bike lanes, and the farmers markets. The East Side, where the houses look tired and worn down, where the neighbors keep to themselves because everyone's got their own problems to deal with. Our house was a 2-story on Maple Street, yellow siding that hadn't seen a fresh coat of paint since I was in middle school, roof that leaked every time it rained hard enough, driveway cracked straight down the middle like someone had split it with an axe years ago and nobody ever bothered to fix it. It wasn't much, but it was home, the only one I'd ever known. My dad's name is Dennis. He's 52 years old, built like a guy who used to work with his hands, but let everything go over the past decade. Always smelled like cheap beer and old cigarettes, even when he claimed he'd quit smoking years ago. Dennis used to have a decent job. He worked at an auto plant about 20 minutes outside the city. Union gig, good benefits, steady paycheck that actually meant something back then. Then they downsized, laid him off right after I graduated high school. That was 5 years ago. 5 years of absolutely nothing. 5 years of sitting on that same couch in the living room, flipping through the same channels day after day, complaining about how the economy had screwed him over, how the system was rigged against regular working guys like him, how he'd definitely start looking for work tomorrow, always tomorrow, never today. He'd go through phases, send out a handful of job applications, maybe land an interview here or there. Then something would happen. They'd lowball him on the salary, or the commute was too far, or the hours didn't line up with his schedule. Whatever excuse he could grab onto, eventually, he stopped trying altogether, just gave up completely. But here's the thing that always got to me. He never stopped acting like he was in charge, like he was the man of the house, the patriarch who made all the important decisions, the one everyone else should respect and listen to. He just didn't have any money to back any of that up. My mom's name is Sharon. She's 49 years old, thin, nervous, the kind of woman who laughs too loud at things that aren't actually funny and apologizes constantly even when she hasn't done anything wrong. Sharon works part-time as a cashier at a grocery store over on the East Side, 20 hours a week when she's lucky, sometimes less. Minimum wage that barely covers her gas money to get back and forth. She's been at that same exact job for 8 years now, never once asked for a raise. never pushed for more hours, never tried to advance or look for something better, just showed up, did her shift, and came home every day acting like the world owed her something for the effort. She's not a bad person. Not really. She's just weak. The kind of weak that lets things happen around her because fighting back is too uncomfortable, too risky, too much effort. The kind of weak that watches her husband tear into their son at Christmas dinner and says absolutely nothing to stop it. And then there's Emma, my younger sister, 16 years old, a junior in high school. Emma is smart, really smart. The kind of girl who sits quietly in the back of class, never raises her hand, and still gets straight A's without anyone noticing. Observant, careful, always watching everything around her. She learned young that silence was safer than speaking up in our house. Keep your head down. Don't make waves. Don't attract attention. Survive until you can get out. I learned something different. I learned that if you want something done in this family, you do it yourself. Nobody else is going to step up. And if you want to survive in that house, you make yourself useful, indispensable, the one holding everything together. So that's exactly what I did. At 18, right after graduation, I got a job at a parts warehouse on Main Street. Nothing glamorous about it. Loading trucks, stocking inventory, moving heavy boxes around until my back screamed at the end of every shift. Started at $12 an hour, worked my way up to 14 after 5 years of showing up on time and never complaining about anything. Full time, sometimes overtime when they needed extra hands for a rush. The work was boring, physical, repetitive. My hands were always rough and dry from handling cardboard all day long. Feet ached by the time I clocked out every single night. But the check was steady. And steady was everything I needed. Because every single month, without fail, I handed over about $1,400 to keep that house running. Let me break that down for you so you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Electric bill. $180 in the summer when the AC ran constantly just to keep the place bearable. $220 in winter when the old furnace kicked on to fight the Ohio cold. Internet. $85 a month. Dennis swore up and down he absolutely needed it for job searches, far as I could actually tell. He used it mostly for watching YouTube videos and getting into arguments with strangers on Facebook. Groceries, around $600 a month. Sometimes more when Dennis decided he wanted ribeye steaks instead of ground beef, or when Sharon convinced herself we needed name brand everything, even though the generic stuff was exactly the same. Water bill, $45, gas for the furnace, $120 during the cold winter months. Ohio winters don't mess around. Phone bill, $150 for the family plan that covered Dennis, Sharon, and Emma. But not me. I paid for my own phone separately because there was only room for 4 lines on their family plan, and apparently I didn't count. Netflix, $15.99 a month. Amazon Prime, $14.99 a month. Sometimes I'd cover the car insurance when Dennis's truck needed to stay registered. Sometimes I'd pay for repairs when something in the house inevitably broke. The faucet that wouldn't stop dripping. The toilet that ran constantly all night. The garage door opener that finally gave up one winter. Once. I paid $800 for a brand new water heater when the old one finally died after years of neglect. Dennis just shrugged when I told him about it. Said we could take cold showers for a while until it sorted itself out. Like that was a reasonable option in the middle of January in Ohio. I wasn't living at home because I was lazy. I wasn't staying because I couldn't find anywhere else to go. I stayed because without me, they'd be sitting in the dark. Without me, they'd have no heat in the winter, no running water, no internet, no groceries in the fridge. Without me, that house would have completely fallen apart years ago. And they knew it. Deep down, they had to know the truth. But Dennis never said thank you. Not once. Not a single time in 5 years. He just expected it. Like I owed him for being born. Like my entire purpose in life was to fund his comfortable unemployment. Sharon would pat my shoulder sometimes when I handed her the grocery money. "You're such a good son," she'd say, sweet and grateful, for about 5 seconds. Then she'd turn around and stand there silently while Dennis criticized everything I did, every choice I made. My job wasn't good enough for him. My car was too old. I spent too much time in my room. I wasn't helping enough around the house, even though I did more than both of them combined. I mowed the lawn every single week in summer, fixed the leaky faucet under the bathroom sink, changed the oil in both their cars because Dennis couldn't be bothered, shoveled the driveway every time it snowed while he watched from the window with a beer in his hand. I did more than both of them put together, and it was never acknowledged, never appreciated, never enough. I was the glue holding this dysfunctional family together, the invisible support beam keeping the whole rotten structure from collapsing in on itself. They just refused to see it. Christmas morning started out completely normal, too normal. Looking back on it, that should have been my first warning sign that something was coming. I woke up around 8 a.m. The house was cold and quiet. The furnace had been making that weird clicking sound again for weeks now. Nobody wanted to pay for a repair guy to come look at it, so we all just pretended the noise wasn't there. I went downstairs, made coffee, a whole pot, because that's what I always did. Took care of things before anyone else even woke up. The Christmas tree was standing in the corner of the living room. Fake. We'd had the same artificial tree since I was 12 years old. Some of the branches were bent at wrong angles from years of being shoved in and out of the storage box. About half the lights didn't work anymore, but Emma had decorated it anyway. Tinsel draped carefully around the fake branches. Old ornaments we'd had since before I could remember. A crooked star on top that tilted about 15 degrees to the left. She always tried to make things look nice. I appreciated that about her. She came downstairs around 9, hair still messy from sleep, wearing that oversized gray hoodie she basically lived in during the winter months, the one that was 2 sizes too big and hung down past her hands. "Merry Christmas," she said, shuffling toward the coffee I'd already made. "Merry Christmas." We had this little tradition, just the two of us, exchange our gifts before anyone else woke up, before Dennis stumbled down to ruin the mood. Before Sharon started fussing around trying to make everything look perfect for nobody in particular. I got her a journal, one of those nice ones with the thick, cream-colored pages that don't bleed when you write on them. Had her favorite band's logo embossed on the leather cover. Found it online for $35. Not cheap, but worth it to see her face light up. She got me a 6-pack of really nice socks, the kind with the cushioned soles that actually keep your feet warm, and a king-size chocolate bar. Sea salt and caramel. My absolute favorite, the one I only ever bought for myself as a treat maybe twice a year. "Very practical," I said, holding up the socks and pretending to examine them seriously. She shrugged with a little smile. "You're impossible to shop for. You never say you want anything." "I want things. I just don't need things." That's a way too philosophical for 9 a.m. on Christmas morning. We actually laughed. Real laughs. Not the forced kind you do when relatives are visiting and you're supposed to pretend everything is fine. For a few minutes there, everything actually felt okay. Like we were just a normal brother and sister. Like the constant tension and dysfunction didn't exist. Then Dennis woke up. He came stomping down the stairs around 10:30. Didn't say good morning. Didn't look at the tree Emma had spent hours decorating. Didn't acknowledge that it was Christmas at all. Just shuffled into the kitchen, yanked open the fridge, grabbed a can of cheap beer at 10:30 in the morning on Christmas Day. I watched him crack it open, take a long sip, drop into one of the kitchen chairs without saying a single word to either of us. Emma caught my eye from across the room, raised an eyebrow slightly. I gave a small shrug. Nothing new about this. Just another day in the Dennis Hart household. Sharon came down about half an hour later, hair done up nice, makeup carefully applied, wearing a red sweater with little snowflakes on it that was supposed to be festive. She made another pot of coffee like she didn't see the one I'd already brewed an hour ago. Started fussing around the kitchen, opening cabinet doors, checking the fridge, making herself look busy. "We should really start the turkey," she announced to no one in particular. "It needs at least 4 hours to cook properly." I spent those entire 4 hours helping her in the kitchen, mashing potatoes until my arms burned from the repetitive motion, checking the turkey every 30 minutes to make sure it wasn't drying out in the unreliable oven, making the green bean casserole from scratch because Sharon insisted the canned stuff wasn't good enough for Christmas dinner, rolling out biscuit dough on the counter, stirring the gravy constantly so it wouldn't get lumpy, peeling carrots for the side dish, setting up the fancy dishes we only use twice a year. Dennis didn't lift a single finger the entire time. He sat in the living room on that same couch he always occupied, flipping between football and some car auction show. Nobody was actually watching. Third beer by noon, fourth by 2, fifth cracked open by 3. Every once in a while, Sharon would call out to him from the kitchen, "Dennis, honey, can you come set the table for dinner?" In a minute. He didn't even look away from the TV. The minute never came. It never did. "Dennis, someone needs to carve the turkey when it's ready." I said, "I'll do it when it's done." He did carve it, eventually. Took him about 3.5 minutes, then straight back to the couch and his 6th beer of the day. Emma helped wherever she could. Set out the nice plates and cloth napkins we never used. Lit the candles on the table. Folded everything into neat little shapes. She always tried to make things nice, even when nobody else seemed to notice or care. By 4 p.m., the house actually smelled like a real holiday for once. Roasted turkey, melted butter, cinnamon from the pumpkin pie cooling on the counter. We all sat down to eat around 5. Dennis took his spot at the head of the table. Like always, like he'd earned that seat through decades of providing for his family. Even though he hadn't earned anything in 5 years, Sharon sat to his right, adjusting the centerpiece, straightening the napkins, making sure everything looked absolutely perfect for the 4 of us and nobody else. Emma sat across from me, quiet, watchful, taking everything in like she always did. I sat at the other end of the table, facing Dennis directly, for about 20 minutes. It almost felt like we were a real family having a real Christmas dinner together. We passed dishes around the table, turkey, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans, fresh biscuits still warm from the oven, Sharon's homemade cranberry sauce. Small talk filled the awkward silences. Sharon asked Emma about school. "How are your classes going this semester?" "Sweetheart, you're still taking that AP history course, right?" "It's fine. Lots of essays and reading. Nothing I can't handle." "You're so smart. You definitely get that from my side of the family." Emma smiled politely, but didn't say anything else. I mentioned something about work, just to contribute to the conversation. "We're getting a new inventory management system at the warehouse next month. Should make things a lot easier once everyone figures out how to use it." Nobody seemed particularly interested, but I said it anyway, just to fill the space. Dennis didn't contribute much to the conversation at all. Just ate, drank, grunted occasionally at something on his phone. I should have noticed something was off about him. The silence felt different somehow. Too calm, too peaceful, like the stillness right before a big storm rolls in and the pressure drops and everything goes quiet. I caught Dennis glancing at me a few times throughout the meal. Quick looks, then immediately away again, like he was working himself up to say something, building toward a moment he'd been planning. Then, about 20 minutes into dinner, he set down his fork. Slowly, deliberately, placing it carefully on the edge of his plate, like he'd been rehearsing this exact moment in his head for days, maybe weeks. Then he looked directly at me, eyes cold, focused, the kind of look you give someone you've already decided doesn't belong at your table anymore. Mason? I looked up from my plate. Yeah. The entire room went still. Sharon stopped chewing. Her fork hovered frozen in the air about 2 inches from her mouth. Emma's head turned slowly toward our father, like she could sense what was coming before the words even left his mouth. We need to talk, Dennis said flatly. I set my fork down carefully. Okay, about what? He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms over his chest, the posture of a man who thinks he's about to deliver some hard truths. You've overstayed your welcome in this house. The words just hung there in the air between us, like smoke that wouldn't dissipate. You're a burden, he continued, not breaking eye contact with me for a second. You're 23 years old. You should have been out of here years ago. We can't keep supporting you like this forever. Supporting me, I paid their electric bill every single month, their internet, their water, their groceries. I bought the turkey that was sitting right there on the table in front of him. And he was sitting there, calling me a burden. Emma had gone completely still beside me, fork frozen halfway to her mouth, eyes wide and glassy like she couldn't process what she was hearing. Honestly, neither could I. I looked over at Sharon, waited for her to say something, anything, to defend me, to point out the obvious truth that Dennis seemed to have conveniently forgotten. She didn't say a word. Her face crumpled up like she was in pain, lips pressed tight together, but she stayed completely silent, just sat there fidgeting with her napkin, eyes darting between the table and the living room like she was looking for an escape route. Of course she wasn't going to defend me. When had she ever let me get this straight? I said slowly, keeping my voice even. You want me to leave? That's right. Because I'm a burden. That's exactly what I said. The air in that dining room turned to absolute ice. My hands were steady. My voice didn't shake. Okay. Dennis actually sat up straighter in his chair, like he'd won something. Like he'd finally put me in my place after all these years. Sharon's eyes went wide. Mason? No. I held up my hand to stop her. He made himself perfectly clear. This is his house. His rules. I get it. I stood up from the table, picked up my plate, carried it over to the sink without another word. Didn't look back at any of them. Behind me, I could hear Sharon's chair scraping against the floor as she half stood. Dennis, maybe we should talk about this more before... It's done. He cut her off. Should have happened years ago. He needed to hear it. I walked toward the stairs without another word. Emma was still sitting frozen at the table, still staring at me with those wide, glassy eyes full of disbelief. I gave her a small nod, just enough to let her know I saw her, that I wasn't mad at her, that none of this was her fault. Then I went upstairs to my room. Behind me, I could hear Dennis picking up his whiskey glass, taking a long, satisfied sip, like throwing his son out on Christmas was just another item to check off his to-do list. I shut the door behind me and just stood there in the middle of my room for about 30 seconds. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't think. Then I walked over to my bed, sat down on the edge of the mattress, stared at the wall. My hands weren't shaking. The initial shock was already starting to fade. Something colder was settling into its place. Not anger, not sadness, not self-pity. Clarity. It was like a fog that had been hanging over me for years suddenly lifted, like I'd been swimming through murky water my whole life and finally broke through to the surface. This was always how it was going to end. Not with gratitude, not with appreciation, not with some tearful moment where they finally realized how much I'd done for them. Just this, a cold dismissal over Christmas dinner, called a burden by a man who hadn't contributed a single thing to this family in half a decade. I stood up, walked to my closet, pulled out the old duffel bag I'd had since high school, the green one with the broken zipper on the side pocket, and I started packing. I didn't cry, didn't punch the wall, didn't scream into my pillow or throw things across the room. I just folded my clothes, rolled them up tight to save space, shoved them into the bag one by one: jeans, t-shirts, my work uniforms, the one nice button-down I wore to job interviews, heavy winter coat. I grabbed my laptop and its charger, my headphones, the folder I kept in my desk drawer with all my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, car title, bank statements going back 2 years. Everything I owned fit into 2 bags. 2 bags. That's it. 23 years of living in this house, and my entire life could fit into 2 bags. I sat back down on the edge of my bed, pulled out my phone, logged into my bank account, balanced $2, $847.38. Not a lot of money, but enough. A few weeks if I was careful about what I spent. Maybe a month if I really stretched it. I could crash on someone's couch, apply for apartments, figure out the next step. I had options. They didn't. And that realization actually made me smile. Because here's the thing that Dennis and Sharon never seemed to understand. They needed me. I didn't need them. Without me, their whole comfortable little system collapsed. Without my money, the lights would go off. The water would stop. The heat would die. The internet would cut out. Without me, they had absolutely nothing. And they were about to find that out the hard way. About an hour passed. Maybe more. I lost track of time while packing up my life. I was shoving my laptop charger into one of the side pockets when there was a soft knock at my door. "Mason," Emma's voice, barely above a whisper. "Come in." She slipped inside, closed the door carefully behind her, leaned against it like she needed the support just to stay standing. Her eyes were red-rimmed, a crumpled tissue balled up in her hand. She'd been crying. "What the hell was that?" she whispered. "I don't know. You didn't do anything wrong. You know that, right?" "I know." She stared at the bags on my bed, the empty hangers in my open closet, the bare spots on my desk where my stuff used to be. "You're really leaving?" "Tomorrow morning." First thing. Her face crumpled, fresh tears already building at the corners of her eyes. "That's insane. Mason, you literally pay for everything around here. They can't even afford groceries without you. How are they supposed to survive?" "Not my problem anymore." She bit her lip hard, trying not to cry again. "Where are you even going to go? I've got a buddy from work, Trevor. He's got a couch. Said I could crash there while I figure things out. And after that, I'll find a place, get an apartment. Figure it out as I go." She stood there for a long moment, swaying slightly, like she wanted to say something else but couldn't find the words. Then she finally said it. "Can I come with you?" My chest tightened painfully. "Emma, I'm serious." Her voice cracked, broke. "I can't stay here, not without you. You're the only thing that makes this place bearable. The only reason I haven't completely lost my mind already." I shook my head gently. "They'd never let you. You're only 16. Still a minor. They'd call the cops the second they noticed you were gone. File a missing persons report. Make my life hell and drag you right back here anyway. But 2 more years. That's it. Just keep your head down. Focus on school. Graduate. The second you turn 18, you walk out that front door and you never look back. 2 years. Her voice broke completely. Mason, I don't know if I can do 2 more years of this. You can. You're strong. Way stronger than you give yourself credit for. Her eyes were glassy, tears streaming down her cheeks now. What about them? What are they going to do when you're gone? That's not your problem either. They made their choice tonight. Now they have to live with the consequences. We stood there in heavy silence for what felt like forever. Then she sighed, the sound soft and sharp at the same time. Exhausted? They're going to regret this. So much. I managed a tired smile. I know they will. She stepped forward and hugged me, quick, tight. The kind of desperate hug that tries to say everything words can't express. I hugged her back, felt her thin shoulders shaking against my chest. I'll check in with you, I said quietly. Every single day if you want. Call me whenever you need to. I'm still your brother. That part doesn't change. Promise? I promise. She pulled back, wiped her eyes roughly with her sleeve, took a shaky breath and tried to compose herself. Okay. Then she was gone, door clicking shut behind her, and I was alone with my 2 bags and my $2 or $8.4738 talent. I didn't sleep that night, not a single hour, not even close. I just lay there on my mattress, eyes fixed on the ceiling, cold Ohio wind scratching and howling at the windows. My mind wouldn't stop racing. I kept thinking about all the years I'd spent carrying this family on my back. All the times I'd quietly covered the electric bill when Dennis drank away whatever was left of his unemployment check. All the grocery runs I'd made when Sharon's hours got cut. And for what around 3 a.m., I gave up trying to sleep, got out of bed, sat at my desk, opened my laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. I started logging into every account I had access to in the electric company. AEP Ohio, account in my name since I was 19. Internet provider, Spectrum, same thing. Water department, gas company, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all in my name, all paid with my money. I didn't click anything yet. Not tonight. I wanted to wait until I was out of this house, until I was somewhere safe. But I started planning exactly what I was going to do. If they wanted me gone so badly, they were going to get exactly what they asked for. Every dark, cold, silent consequence of it. At 6 a.m., I got up, got dressed, grabbed my 2 bags. The house was completely dark, silent. Nobody else was awake yet. I crept down the stairs slowly. Each step felt different this time, not heavy with obligation, light, almost floating. I didn't leave a note on the counter, didn't wake anyone up to say goodbye. What was there left to say? Outside, the air bit into my skin immediately. My breath fogged in front of my face. Frost covered everything. I threw my bags in the trunk of my old Honda Civic, climbed in, engine turned over on the second try, sat there for a moment, looking at the house through my frosted windshield, the peeling yellow paint, the sagging front porch, the Christmas lights that I'd hung 2 weeks ago. No sadness, no nostalgia, just relief. Then I pulled out my phone, logged into AEP Ohio, found my account settings, removed my name from this account. Are you sure this will transfer billing responsibility to the other registered party? Yes. Electric. Done. Spectrum next. Same process. Internet. Done. Water department. Gas company. Netflix. Amazon Prime. One by one. Sitting there in my car in their driveway. I cut every single cord connecting me to that house, The accounts would stay active for a few more days, maybe a week, but the next billing cycle, nothing, no payment, no service. By the end of January, that house would be completely dark, completely dry, completely cold, completely silent. I smiled for the first time in what felt like months, put the car in drive, and pulled away from the house I would never live in again. I didn't look back, not even once. Trevor's apartment smelled like microwave burritos and dog shampoo. The couch had a spring that stabbed me in the ribs every time I shifted. His ancient TV only got about 12 channels. His roommate played video games at full volume until 2 a.m. every night. But it was warm. It was safe. And nobody there called me a burden when I walked through the door. Trevor was a guy I worked with at the warehouse. Same shift, same section. We'd been friends for about 3 years. The kind of friendship built on mutual respect and not asking too many questions. When I texted him the morning after Christmas, he responded in 30 seconds flat. Doors unlocked. Dogs weird but harmless. Come through whenever. That's the kind of guy Trevor is. Low maintenance. No pressure. Always there when you need him. His dog Max was a pit lab mix with one ear that flopped over. He sniffed my duffel bags for a solid 5 minutes when I first walked in, then decided I was acceptable and flopped down right at my feet. Trevor handed me a chipped coffee mug and dropped onto the other end of his couch. You good, man? I will be. He didn't push for more details. That night, I lay on his lumpy couch, staring at water stains on the ceiling, Max snoring at my feet. It wasn't exactly peaceful, but it was safe. Nobody screamed at me. Nobody blamed me. Nobody demanded anything. And that was enough. For now, 3 days later, my phone absolutely exploded. 7 missed calls from Sharon, 2 from Dennis, which was strange since he hadn't voluntarily called me in over a year, and a stream of panicked texts from Emma. Power's out. Mom is freaking out. Dad keeps blaming you. Internet won't work either. I sat on Trevor's couch, read through each message slowly, let the satisfaction hum in my chest. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly. Just simple math. Don't pay the bills. The lights go out. Around 3 p.m., Sharon called for the 4th time in 10 minutes. I answered. Her voice was panicked, borderline hysterical. Mason, the power went out this morning. Internet's not working. Water bill says they're disconnecting. I stopped paying, I said flatly. Dead silence. What, electric? Internet. Water to all in my name? I removed myself from all the accounts. You paid for all of these. I actually laughed. Who else did you think was paying for them? Your father always said when he wasn't paying anything. I was, for 5 years straight. Please, can't you put your name back on just until we figured? No. Mason, you kicked me out on Christmas Day, called me a burden. Now you want me to keep paying your bills. We didn't mean it like, yes, you absolutely did. I hung up. Trevor looked over from the kitchen. That the meltdown. First wave, more coming. Next morning, I got a fraud alert from my bank. Multiple failed login attempts, all from Sharon's zip code. I called Emma. She answered on the first ring, whispering, Dad's been on the computer all morning trying to get into your bank accounts. Found Mom's old password notebook. My blood went cold. Tell Sharon to stop him. I tried. She won't. Says it's not stealing if it's family. I changed every password I had. Bank, email, Venmo, PayPal, everything. Called Chase. Had them lock my account with a manual verification code. That night, Trevor and I were playing video games. Neither of us really into it. I was finally starting to feel almost normal again. Then came a bang at the front door. Loud, angry, deliberate. Trevor paused the game, expecting anybody. I already knew who it was. Looked through the peephole. Dennis, face beet red, fists clenched. Bang, bang, bang. I know you're in there. Open the damn door. He kicked it hard. The frame rattled. I pulled out my phone. Dialed 911. You think you can just walk away? Dennis shouted through the door. Leave us in the dark. We gave you everything. Dispatcher answered. 911? What's your emergency? My father's at my apartment, trying to break down the door. Officers dispatched. Don't open the door. Dennis kept pounding. You owe us. Sharon's voice behind him. Dennis, please. Shut up. He did this. 2 minutes. Sirens. Red and blue lights through the window. Columbus Police. Step away from the door. I cracked it open. 2 officers. Behind them, Dennis in cuffs, face twisted with rage. Sharon stood back, arms crossed. When Dennis saw me, his face contorted. Pure hate. You did this, he growled. Destroyed this family. I looked him in the eye. No, did Dennis? You did. They led him away. Trevor exhaled. Holy shit. Yeah. Dennis got arrested. Disturbing the peace. Attempted break-in. Out by morning. Someone bailed him. While he was in custody, Sharon made her own move. Emma called at sunrise. She's selling your stuff. What? Mom took your laptop. Pawned it last night. That's theft. She says anything you left is fair game. I grabbed my keys. I'm coming over. Pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later. My Honda was there. The one I'd left at Trevor's. They'd stolen it. Used the spare key I gave Sharon years ago. Marched to the house. Door flew open before I could knock. Sharon stood there, arms crossed. You called the cops on us. You stole my car. It was just sitting there. You broke into Trevor's place to get it. We had the spare key. Give me my keys. Now, she huffed. Came back. Threw them at my chest. I want my laptop back. Gone. Pawned it. Then I'm calling police. Her face went white. You wouldn't? I hit 911. Don't you dare. I'm your mother. You stole from me. That's criminal. Dispatcher answered. 911? What's your emergency? Reporting stolen property? My mother pawned my laptop without permission? Emma stepped forward, voice steady. He's not lying. She told me herself. Sharon gasped. 15 minutes later, officers at the door asked about the laptop. Sharon stumbled. Emma confirmed everything. They put Sharon in the back of a police car. It's a misunderstanding. He's my son. I watched from the window. Emma beside me. Is this really happening? Yeah. And it's not over yet. Headlights at the end of the street. Dennis's truck. Coming fast. Get inside, I told Emma. Now? She ran. Dennis barely parked before charging at me. Proud of yourself. Got my wife arrested. Turned my daughter against me. I stood my ground. You tried to break into my apartment. Tried to hack my bank. She stole from me. We're your family. Family doesn't do this. He stepped closer. Whiskey on his breath. You're nothing without us. I opened my car door. No, Dennis. You're nothing without me. About to find out what that means. You come near me again. I'm filing a restraining order. His face twisted. Behind the rage, something else. Fear. You'll regret this? No, I won't. I drove away. Didn't look back. 2 years passed. My apartment now isn't big. 1 bedroom in Worthington, near the freeway. But it's mine. Furniture mismatched. Heat clanks when it kicks on. But it's safe. Quiet. Nobody screams through walls. Steady job at a distribution center. Nothing glamorous. But steady hours. Benefits. 401k. An actual life. Haven't heard from Dennis or Sharon in over a year. They tried at first. Fake Facebook accounts. Random numbers texting threats. Letters with no return address and blocked everything. Changed my number. Through Emma, heard the house was foreclosed. Couldn't keep up with bills. Bounced between relatives. Burned every bridge. Ended up in a dingy apartment on the east side. I don't feel bad. Not because I'm bitter. Because I have nothing left to give them. Emma made it out. Second she turned 18, packed 2 bags, walked out without a word. Community college, small scholarship, part-time job at a coffee shop. She calls every week now, sends pictures of her place, textbooks, iced coffee she lives on. She's doing it. One Sunday, a letter showed up. No return address, shaky handwriting, knew who it was from. Didn't open it, dropped it in the trash. Week later, email to an old account. Subject, please delete it without reading. Some stories need closure. Others need distance. I chose distance. Day. Emma came to visit. It was snowing. She showed up in a too thin jacket. Giant scarf. You got taller? I said. She rolled her eyes. You say that every time. We made grilled cheese, watched bad TV, kind of night we never got growing up. No yelling, no slamming doors, no one throwing anything. When she was half asleep on the couch, she said something that stopped me. You saved me, you know. Shook my head. You saved yourself, only because you showed me how. Later, stood by the window, watched the snow fall, kind of quiet that felt earned, not just absence of noise, presence of peace. Phone buzzed, unknown number, one new message, didn't open it, blocked the number, set the phone down. Some stories end with forgiveness, mine ends with freedom. What would you have done? Would you have stayed? Kept paying their bills? Let them call you a burden while keeping their lights on? Or would you have walked away? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit home, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes losing your family means finding yourself. Thanks for watching.